In a small village nestled between green hills and quiet rivers lived a boy named Armin. He was known not for his riches, but for the constant sparkle in his eyes and the dreams he carried like fireflies in a jar. His house was made of mud and straw with a roof that let in more stars than it should. The nights were often cold, and the days were hard, but Armin never complained. He walked 5 miles to school each day with torn shoes and a satchel that was really just an old cloth bag. But in that bag he carried books borrowed from friends and dreams borrowed from the stars. Armin loved numbers. He would stare at the chalkboard in class as if it were a map to treasure. His fingers would trace invisible lines in the air as he solved problems in his mind. The teacher would pause sometimes just to watch the light in his eyes. It was the light of someone who believed he could reach beyond the sky. But not everyone believed like Armin did. Some boys in school would laugh at his torn clothes and whisper about his bare feet. They would say, "What can a poor boy ever become?" They would laugh and move on. But Armin would only smile. He knew something they did not. He knew that hunger makes the fire burn brighter. After school, he would help his mother at the market, selling vegetables in the heat, carrying heavy baskets for neighbors just to earn a few extra coins. At night, he would sit under the lantern and study till the flame burned low. He read every word like it was a key to a door he had not yet found. One day his teacher called him after class. He said, "Armin, I have entered your name in the district scholarship exam." Armin nodded. He had heard of the exam. Only the brightest students were selected. Only the ones with a spark. For the next few weeks, Armin studied harder than ever. He slept less and read more. He skipped meals to save money for bus fare to the exam center. On the day of the exam, he wore his only clean shirt. The buttons were missing, but the pride on his face was enough. He walked into the exam hall with confidence. He saw students from big towns, students with polished shoes and new bags. But he was not afraid. He had walked through rain and hunger. This was just another test. When the results came a month later, the entire village gathered outside the school. The headmaster came out with a sheet of paper. He cleared his throat and read the top name aloud. It was Armin. There was silence for a moment. Then the village burst into cheers. Some clapped. Some cried. Armin stood still for a moment. Then slowly a smile crept onto his face. But his journey had just begun. The scholarship would take him to a city, a place filled with noise and people and unknown streets. He would have to leave his village, leave his mother, leave the hills that had always protected him. His mother packed his bag with care. She placed in it a small packet of rice, a pair of socks someone had donated, and a letter. She said, "Open it only when you feel alone." The bus ride to the city was long. The buildings seemed to touch the sky. The people moved fast. No one smiled like they did back home. At the hostel, Armin met other students. Many of them had laptops and watches that beeped. He only had his books. But he was not afraid. He remembered the nights he studied under a lantern. He remembered his mother's voice whispering strength into his soul. Classes in the city were harder. The teachers spoke fast and the books were thicker. But Armin woke up before dawn and studied till others were asleep. He found an old job cleaning a small shop in the evenings. It paid little, but it was enough for bread and tea. There were days when he missed home, when the city noise drowned his thoughts, when the streets felt too big, and the loneliness too loud. One such night he remembered the letter. He opened it with trembling hands. Inside was his mother's handwriting. It said, "My son, never forget that even the sky cannot hold back someone who knows how to fly without wings." Armin folded the letter and kept it close to his heart. He whispered the words again and again. They became his prayer, his promise. He worked harder, read more, asked questions when others laughed at him. And slowly something began to change. One day his teacher called him again. Said, "Armin, your name has been nominated for the National Science Fair. You will present your project to the biggest minds in the country." Armin felt the old fire return. He remembered the chalkboard in the village, the invisible lines he used to draw in the air. Now they had taken shape. They had become real. But even as he packed for the fair, he knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning of a road that stretched far beyond the stars. He would not stop now. Not until every poor student knew that dreams do not need money. They only need courage and a heart that refuses to give up. The lights in the city grew dim. The night stretched on. But in one small room, a boy named Armin was still awake, still dreaming, still writing the story that would never be forgotten.